Hi everyone, I'm Tally, this is Farrell and we're bored of it, and welcome to our review of Biome, the new challenger in the crowded wildlife theme with terrific components scene. In this 1 to 4 player card driven game, you'll be attracting different wildlife to different habitats within your biome, each one providing you with a unique action that you can utilise.
Yep, so you'll be playing plant and animal cards into your tableau, and this is going to broaden the strategies you have on offer as you can activate them to do different things. You'll also be hopefully adding a bunch of really cute animeeples, and you do get opportunities to get plenty of them. So before we get into how to play and what we think, please note we have provided this as a review copy by the publisher, and it is the deluxe edition.
Biome has 3 endgame conditions. If a player reaches 120 points, if a player fills up their player map with cards, or in the 4th season of year 3. Each round is a season and 4 seasons make up the year. At the beginning of each season, all the players will play simultaneously where they'll draw cards, collect resources and play 1 card into their habitat. Then everyone will resolve the seasonal effect, which changes every season. Finally, players will pick 1 card on their player mat to activate an action. Your player board, or biome, is split into 3 habitats, and each card will have a preferred habitat showing where it can be played, along with being one of 7 types of cards, i.e. your standard bird, mammal, tree type tags. These play into achievements, which give players set goals, something like have 4 mammals in your biome. Points will come from pretty much every corner, like when you play a card, claim achievements, or activate your cards. Of note when discussing points are the spring and summer seasons. In spring, birds that are next to trees and rabbits that are next to plants will create nests full of babies. Then in the summer, predator cards will try and eat the babies of other players. The surviving babies have a chance then to be fed, and then players will earn points for any babies fed and any babies eaten.
It's worth noting that there are also multiple ways to play Biome within this box. So there is a standard game and an advanced game. Most people start with the standard game, and this will have you only having seasonal events in spring and summer, the aforementioned breeding and predation. If you play the advanced game, you have events in all 4 seasons, and the events are a little more trickier, a little more meaner, such as in fall, you only get to take 1 resource instead of 2 due to the lack of resources. And you're also restricted in that you can't take 2 of the same resource in your resource gathering phase. So a little bit more complex there. There are also a number of mini expansions, such as Natural Disasters and Bountiful Biome, which kind of alter the gameplay a little bit. Just kind of, add little bits here and there, which we found relatively interesting. Bountiful Biome was our favorite mini expansion, as it just kind of creates more spatial decision making. But it's also worth noting that in the deluxe version, what's different is it gives you component trays made of this kind of egg carton material, which is super nice. It gives you the Bountiful Biome mini expansion, and it gives you screen printing on the chicks and the rabbits. So those are the main differences. I think I want to start by just talking about what probably a lot of people's first impression of Biome will be. I think when you first look at it, you're going to think Wingspan, because you have the board with the cards, and there are a lot of birds in this game. You have the different habitats, and it's also in the back of the rules kind of directly referenced. Then I think if you're a more experienced board gamer, you're going to kind of read the rules and you're going to go, where are the decisions I'm making coming in? Because there's a lot of steps and micro steps. And at least I certainly thought when I read it, what decisions am I going to make here? Because it seems very much, you play exactly 1 card, you do this. But what I'm glad to report, I think both of us are, is that it doesn't particularly feel like Wingspan at all. which I think is everyone's first thought, despite the fact you're playing cards to different habitats. And it also actually has a surprising amount of kind of decision making based upon the fact that you do have these kind of micro actions.
Yeah, I remember when you first got it out, you said to me, not sure what the game is exactly here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were very pleasantly surprised because actually there is a lot of game, a lot of decisions, and I would say like a lot of puzzle. There's what cards you play because you want to be able to activate their actions. And then within that, you have ones which are maybe resource producing, some are points producing, the predations, there's that kind of decision. There's also a bit of a spatial puzzle about where you place them exactly in each habitat because rabbits need to go next to plants in order to create babies. Birds need to go next to trees to also create their nests. So you need to think about that. There's also the some of the achievements as well. Particularly, I kept going for one which made you have diverse rows or habitats. So you had to get 6 out of the 7 types in each either row or habitat. And I absolutely loved doing that one, I have to say, because you really had to consider where you place them, not just within the habitat, but potentially across them as well. And it was fun to me to try and then combo that with cards which gave me actions where I could draw more cards to try and up the chances of making the diverse rows happen. And then at some point just kind of accepting maybe it wasn't going to happen and trying to pivot. So yeah, pretty much everything you're doing down to even which resources you take is actually quite an interesting decision, because we always say we really like games where most of the decisions are kind of interesting right at each step. And for me, this really ticks that box. Yeah,
completely. It's definitely a very engaging game.
Biome is surprisingly engaging because of the rhythm of the game. It's pretty much all action all the time, because the first part of each season sees players doing actions simultaneously. Of course, you're very focused on what you're doing there and you don't have any downtime. And then even when it gets to the seasonal events and it goes to turn order, you're still very much interested in what the other players are doing because of the predation. Are they gonna eat your babies in spring and summer? Also in the activation phase, some of the actions will kind of give players points, give players food or resources. So it also means that you kind of stay interested in what other people are doing, or you can benefit from it. And also at that stage, even though it's in turn order, those actions are usually over pretty quick. So again, the downtime is super minimal. So that makes it a really, really great game at any player count because of that. One of our friends who played it said they really, really enjoyed it because of this. And yeah, the quote, all action all the time, actually comes from him. It's also really good at 2 players because of that, you know, kind of interaction stays pretty much the same. It's all about the predation, which can kind of come from that player or that player. So it doesn't really matter how many players there are. We would say though that this kind of comes at the cost of kind of ease of flow of the game or smoothness, especially in the phase where players are doing things simultaneously, because there are a lot of micro actions as part of that. So when you have to discard cards down, for example, to hand limit of 8, if you discard 2, you get a resource. But then in that phase, you also collect 2 resources. So it can just sometimes be difficult to remember where you're at in each step.
One of the key elements that we both greatly enjoy is the way that Biome allows you to build out your strategy through the cards you play. Each card has its own action, and while some of them can be good for generating resources, a lot of resources very quickly, a lot more are about scoring, and it allows you to set yourself up. And because there's such a variety of different kind of cards and ways they will give you points, you have a lot of options there, from ones that have you collect a lot of resources and you get points for that, to ones that maybe want you to have different cards in your biome, the kind of card types, and then you'll score off that. Some will have you give things to other players, and a lot of them will actually come down to luck. So maybe it'll be flipping a coin or drawing a number of cards from the deck and seeing if you've got a certain type. And there's just a lot of fun in that. And I've just really enjoyed game to game to game, kind of carving my own path forward and kind of getting everything I want. And then there's also a really interesting rhythm of what do I activate when? Because the game can end without you expecting it, and you don't want to leave some of your kind of big point players unused. So very fun in all that elements. And then when you add in the fact that you can kind of breed rabbits and birds, and if you feed them, you get a lot of points from that. Or even predating on them, or getting one of the 2 vulture cards and kind of picking up the remains. There's a lot of points to be had, and that's just a whole nother angle to how you set yourself up. And yeah, I just really, and we both really like that element of it.
There are a lot of luck elements in Biome. For example, some of the actions on the cards come down to a coin flip to decide the outcome. Some actions will have you draw a certain amount of cards out of the deck, and if a selected one comes out or a selected type, you'll get a better reward than if it doesn't. And the success of predation also comes down to a dice roll. I really, really enjoy this element of Biome. I think it adds a bit of spice when compared with other games that are maybe similar. And it's pretty much on you to decide if you want to go down that route and leave your game a little bit more up to luck, because not all of the cards are luck based. You pretty much always have a pretty decent hand of cards and a variable choice in what cards you're going to play. And you don't have to, and you won't activate every card on your board. So you can always choose to play one of those cards and then just not activate it and activate something else, or just not play it entirely. The predation can also be mitigated by planting plants in your habitat where you have babies, because the way the dice roll works is the opponent with the predator has to roll more than the amount of plants that you've got in a habitat. So if you have 3 plants, then the player has to roll 4 or higher. So very much on you to mitigate that. So I feel like it is within your control.
Now, while the luck can be fun in this game, there is one area where it has kind of riled us up the wrong way, and that is to do with the achievements, which are by far our least favorite element of the game. And we kind of have differing opinions on how much we dislike them. I think we both agree of a level that they vary in how difficult they are to do, making them a little bit unbalanced. And we also agree that they're a little bit uninteresting as well, and generic. But I definitely think that they're probably the weak point of the design, because they give you so many points for doing them first or second, kind of compared to other ways you can get points in the game. But you're very hampered by luck of the draw of what comes out. And this game does not have any kind of wild suits. So you're very much stuck with what you draw. And the biggest problem here is that not only would an achievement kind of say you need to get 4 birds, it will say you need to get 4 birds, but you'll have to get 1 in each habitat. And you have a kind of 1 in 7 chance of drawing a bird card on average. But then if you need a specific habitat, that obviously then add kind of the 1 on 3 or 1 in 3 probability on top of that. And it's kind of like if you would think to wingspan scoring, if you're familiar with that, you would never be asked to have birds in a specific habitat with a specific nest type or something like that, because the probability goes too far against your favor. And while we've never cared particularly about, games like outmaneuver or Terraforming Mars and the kind of luck of the draw and the card shuffle, here I found myself frustrated way more than in any other game I've played, just of not trying to get the right cards. So I think it is one area that will house rule a little bit, just because it kind of is the only area that's really introducing some frustration to our games of Biome. Final thoughts. I think for me, against kind of all odds, when you look at it and you first read the rules, Biome has been a great experience. It's got the production, it's got the gameplay. I think there are elements that won't go over so well with some people. I think I personally am not a big fan of the way achievements are done, mainly tied in with the card randomness and the fact you don't have that wild suit and you're kind of trying to get both like 2 symbols on 1 card, which kind of amplifies. But the moment-to-moment gameplay, the kind of decision-making, this is strategic planning you do of putting yourself in for certain things and trying to set yourself up The fact that like a lot of times when you're moving, which we haven't talked about on the points track, you're getting rewards and you spin those in to doing more stuff. A lot to like about it for sure for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'm less bothered by the kind of randomness than you. I totally get your points and agree. So if it's something that would potentially bother you, then, you know, something to consider. But for me, I quite like the elements of randomness. And like I talked about, I do think you can mitigate it or just pivot your strategy. There's plenty of kind of flexibility to be able to do that. So I actually really, really love this game. I'm quite enamored with it, to be honest.
Yeah.
So big recommendation from me if this type of thing, you think you're going to like it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're into your nature games and you don't care how many you have, then I think this is definitely worth picking up for sure. So that was our review of Biome. We hope it was helpful. If it was, please consider subscribing, and we really appreciate you watching. So we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.